Just discovered a 3-year affair of my husband. Cannot handle the pain and having suicidal thoughts. Need advice. I've been married to my spouse, 38 male, for 20 years, married for 18. We have 2 children together, 19 female, 17 male. I've been through some of the worst times in my life with my spouse, and he's always been a rock of support for me. Our marriage had its ups and downs as well. I became pregnant at an early age, so I had never known what it was like to be a teenager. I cheated on my spouse twice early in our marriage. One affair lasted approximately a year and a half with my ex-PA and EA, and another was an EA with a random man online, also for about a year. We married at a young age, therefore I made some awful decisions that I still regret to this day. He forgave me for the affair, but had me sign an agreement for wealth distribution in the event of a future divorce. I agreed with him and understood why he had to do it. We began again and had a fantastic marriage. He urged me to become drug-free and sober at the time I cheated. I used to take drugs. He was promoted and we purchased a home. He organized trips for me and encouraged me to follow my interests. He helped with housework and was a wonderful father to our children. I was diagnosed with uterine cancer around 7 years ago. When the doctor told us about the cancer, he immediately burst into tears. That's when I realized how much he loves me. I had to have my uterus removed during surgery. Following a successful operation, he treated me as if I were a kid. He prepared breakfast for me, ordered lunch for me, and cooked supper for me. He wouldn't allow me perform any housework or other jobs for 6 months. He also prepared meals for the youngsters on his own. These are the times when I think back and realize I couldn't have done it without him. He is my soulmate, and I can't fathom living without him. I unlocked his phone last night while he was asleep and accessed his Facebook for some of his images, since I was intending to surprise him with a large collage of his entire journey on his birthday. It had 2 Facebook accounts on it, which I noticed. One was his normal one, while the other had a different name. I accessed the second account and saw texts written to his old colleague. They had been. I didn't read them, but I screenshotted the whole thing and emailed it to my phone, erased the screenshots from his phone, and left his phone on the table. I couldn't sleep and cried the whole night. My eyes were considerably puffy in the morning. He inquired about my health, to which I answered that I was okay. He kissed me on the cheek and went to work. I opened the screenshots and read their full discussion as soon as our younger son went for school. Messages were sent 6 months ago. As I scrolled up, they were talking about their dreams, things they do to one another, and nudity. It made me feel nauseous. As I continued to browse, I came upon the phrase "Happy 3-year anniversary." I'm not sure why, but I got a panic attack after reading it. I was simply sobbing on the floor. He informed her about my previous adultery and how he still has dreams and flashbacks. But with her, he is free of those thoughts and enjoying every second of it. He also said that for the last 18 years, he has tolerated every second he has spent with me. Being intimate with me is only physical fulfillment he has to do for me. But with her, it is profound emotional connection. How he remained in the marriage because of the children and will leave me as soon as both of our children attend college. They had even arranged their wedding. My life appears to have been destroyed in a single day. I assumed we were a happy family. I had everything in life, but my world was wrecked in one day. I wanted to grow old with him, but now I'm alone. It looks like my life was hallucination. I can feel my body suffocating. It's as though my spirit is being assassinated. I believed he'd forgotten the last mistake I made 14 years ago, but he'd merely been enduring my error for so long. I know he's my soulmate and that I can't live without him. I'm at a loss on what to do. The notion of him leaving me makes me suicidal. I've been reading the messages for 5 hours now. I just want to die so that I may die with him, as my spouse rather than alone. Should I tell him how I'm feeling and what I'm thinking? I had no clue how much he suffered from the anguish of my betrayal throughout the years. I know it would be selfish of me to try to guilt-trip him, but my soul is entwined with his. I'd sooner die than live alone or with someone else if he abandons me. I'm perplexed and don't know what to do next. Any suggestions to preserve our relationship? Story 2. My wife cheating on our 10-year anniversary. My 35 male wife, 35 female, and I married 10 years ago today. She has been working on a large project for many months. She has been working additional hours, staying late and coming in early for the past 4 weeks or so in order to meet the deadline. This is a career-changing opportunity for her. I'm in the construction industry. Because of the weather, we've been working long hours attempting to make up for lost time. So I work 12 hours on beautiful days, occasionally a bit longer. I don't go in if it's pouring when I wake up. When it begins, we are sometimes sent home because it is too unsafe. I normally spend an hour or two at the gym. We began at 6 a.m. on Thursday, and it began to rain heavily by mid-morning. We're leaving. As usual, I head to the gym. I cut my exercise short and hurry downtown to meet my wife Megan, to offer her flowers and, if possible, to make preparations for dinner that night. We haven't seen each other much this week. I went to bed at 9 p.m. since she wasn't home. She had phoned earlier to say she was working late. This has been the case for the last month. I came to a halt, picked up some flowers, and walked inside her building at 12:30. Nishol was working at the front desk. I informed her that since I arrived later than expected, she may place the flowers on Megan's desk. I don't believe they went to lunch yet, so why don't you drop them off yourself, she replied. To return to the offices, she buzzed the door. The location was desolate. When I arrived at her office, the door was locked. Unless the receptionist informs me that she is in a meeting, I invariably stroll in. When I go in, a man is nuzzling her neck, and she is stretching back over his head. She is simply laughing because she can. We have to get this done, they say. I've been hit in the belly. I stepped out, slapped the flowers down, and yelled, "Happy anniversary." I didn't hear what she said. I simply walked by Nishol, said goodbye, and walked away. I made it to the elevators and out of the building when my phone began to ring. I cried my eyes out the whole way home. I went into the garage, retrieved my camping stuff from the rafters, and drove away. I traveled for almost 2 hours to a state park. I didn't know what to do. I had no choice but to flee. I walked a 3-hour trek on a path we'd been on before. I don't drink much, therefore I didn't have any liquor, so I just sat there thinking. In retrospect, I'm pleased I was in a hurry. Generally, I pack a 45 cal. We have black bears with me while I'm camping, which normally drive them away but get hostile if there are hungry or young around. I may have eaten the barrel that night if I hadn't been feeling so bad. Megan was blowing up my phone, so I switched it off. I exited the park to get reception and got on the phone to check whether my dear buddy had phoned. I returned his call. He said that Megan phoned him to check on me and ensure that I didn't do something dumb. We chatted for a while, and I told him I needed to think about it, and we'd on Friday. So as I'm thinking about it, I look through our marriage from beginning to end to see what I missed. We come from diametrically opposed backgrounds. My grandfather and my mother reared me. He taught me how to live my life. He had a comment for everything. He warned me that marriage would be the most difficult job I had ever had, and that you would have to work on it every day. I miss him so much. We didn't have much, and we overheard Mom and Grandpa arguing over expenses. They worked hard, and my brother and I did not miss anything we were aware of. Megan was born into wealth. Not extravagant, yet quite comfy. I went to a fantastic college, I usually wear nice clothing, I have a new automobile and so on. And she is really stunning, a 10 out of 10. If she coughed, I'd make a joke about the silver spoon becoming trapped in her throat. We met, hit it off, and began dating. I couldn't believe such a lady would ever be with me. We had been dating for quite some time before she informed me about her parents and way of life. We were dubbed the model pair by our friends because they believed we were so attractive that we had to be models. Families were not as understanding, fearful that economic inequalities might come into play. Her father and I began to get along, but it took some persuasion to persuade her mother. We intend to marry when she graduates and obtains her first job. We agreed that we would expose one another to our respective lifestyles. I took her white water rafting, she brought me to the symphony, we ziplined, we went to an art opening, and so on. We decided that we needed to get a sense of one another's interests. She was ecstatic with the additional active activities we undertook. I like symphonies and the like. I currently possess 2 tuxedos. I glance back and notice no red flags. Her first 2 jobs she resigned because the males were trying to get into her trousers. She was paraded in front for picture opportunities. When other newcomers were not invited to conferences, I was. A colleague attempted to get her intoxicated at a conference meal, then tried to push himself into her room. That night, she resigned, then quit again at the next job. This third employment includes some female partners, and none of such nonsense exists in her company. She seemed to be quite joyful. We seemed to be quite joyful. So now that it's Friday, I'm back at home. I dialed her number. When asked where she was, she said she was back at work. In an attitude, I said that her marriage is taking a back seat to her profession. She said, what was she to do since I wouldn't talk? That's okay. She'll be there in 1 hour. So I sit and wait. I want to salvage our relationship. If I'm not contributing enough, I'd want to make up for it. Of course, I'd want to know why, but I'm not going to take it "I'm not sure" response. How do I put this? What else should I inquire about? I know I'll get upset and forget things, so we'll go over everything again and again over the next 3 days. What she did was bad, but please, no derogatory remarks. She is still my wife. Thank you ahead of time.